Sandra, is Commissioner Peterson coming tonight? Say, all right, then call this meeting to order of the Long-Term Planning Committee for the Police Oversight Commission on September 18th, 2013. Welcome, everyone. Before we go forward, there should be another item on this agenda, approval of the agenda, which is not there, but we need to take up the approval of the agenda at this time. And I wanted to, well, let me wait a minute until Commissioner Barker said that. No. Just wait a second, Commissioner Barker. On this agenda, there are two items. Item 5, APD training and practice regarding the search of homes and businesses to assure officer safety. And item 6, preliminary discussion of officer-involved shooting study, that I had proposed adding to the agenda that was originally sent to me by the IRO. As a subsequent to that, sending that, I got an email from Mr. Du Bois, the Assistant City Attorney, who indicated that as chair of the LTPC, I'm reading, as chair of the LTPC, you need to be able to justify everything you do. By justify, I mean be able to demonstrate your authority for your actions. This is a burden that falls upon you, not others. I recommend that starting in October, the format of the LTPC agenda for substantive matters be, and he's got a form, a Roman numeral, and then a blank for the subject matter, in parenthesis, referred to the LPPC by the POC on such and such a date by such and such a vote. And in that regard, he indicates that in his view, in his recollection, items 5 and 6 have not been approved by the Long-Term Planning Committee to be put to be subject matters of this, by specific motion, to be a subject matter of the work of the Long-Term Planning Committee. And therefore, he recommends that we delete item 5 and 6 from this agenda. But that leads me to a greater concern, that is item 4, which is standards established by the Independent Review Office for inactivating CPCs, also was not, in my recollection, specifically authorized by motion and vote of the POC. In addition, item 7, the status of negotiations of the IRO, POC, and the District Attorney Memorandum of Understanding, were not specifically authorized as within the POC's, within the Long-Term Planning Committee's jurisdiction by a motion and vote at the POC. There was based on the recommendations of this committee, before this whole issue arose, there was a motion made at the POC to authorize the negotiation of a memorandum of understanding with the district attorney, but that motion did not include a referral back for the committee to maintain control over the status of the negotiations. Similarly, the item 7, the status of negotiations of the IRO, POC, and the APD, has not been specifically authorized for the continuing subject matter jurisdiction of the Long-Term Planning Committee. And it's the same situation as the MOU for the district attorney. Finally, the status of the 30-city study, that too was never specifically authorized by the POC, and therefore, in my judgment, if we're going to follow the advice of the Assistant City Attorney, all the items on this agenda, beginning with number 4 and including number 9, up to and including number 9, have to be deleted from this agenda. And I therefore so move. Is there a second?
Second the last.
Second is what?
Second the last. I'll second this.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, there's a technical error. I'm making a technical error. You had made a motion to approve the agenda. Had there been a second to that motion? No. There was no second, so we withdraw the motion. All right, so I've now made my motion to amend the agenda by deleting all these items from the agenda. And if this motion, well, I think this motion needs to pass, which means that at the next POC meeting, I will have prepared a motion to establish the subject matter jurisdiction of the long-term planning committee. I might point out for my colleagues and the public that we had prepared and approved a set of agenda items, which is 3 pages, 2.5 pages long, and is still published on the website. And also suggested 5 specific trends and analysis studies to be conducted, which is also on the website. And those were all presented to the Police Oversight Commission at length on April 11th as part of my report of the Long-Term Planning Committee. And in fact, I literally read all of the subject matters in these 2 documents, and no one objected to them. And my impression, and I think everybody else's impression at the meeting, was that that would be appropriate for the Long-Term Planning Committee. But now the city attorney's rule, it has to be a specific motion and vote for each item. So I will be representing these matters at the full POC hearing next comes in October. Any further discussion on this motion? Commission C.
I'm curious, we had a presentation at the full Police Oversight Commission last Thursday, in which the attorney gave an oral presentation. He didn't give us any written backup, and in fact, from my point of view, his presentation created as much confusion as clarity. He alluded to Moby Dick and how you can read anything you want into any ordinance and rules, and I didn't really get clear direction from him. This memo you've received from him, presumably by email, is that called formal notification to the committee? Or I'm not sure under what authority we should cancel the meat of the agenda today.
Well, I can only say that it's an email I got from the assistant city attorney advising me that in his legal opinion, we could not put those 2 items on the agenda, and consistent with that legal opinion, I don't think we could put these other items on the agenda. I must say that I also have discussed the matter with his superior, and I think that's the position of the city attorney's office, and therefore, although we would not accept the advice of the city attorney's office, I'm not sure that that's an appropriate thing to do at this point in time.
So they're saying, Mr. Chairman, may I continue? Or
Yes,
ask
absolutely.
you? I'm puzzled. We acted, I think we thought, with good faith and clarity to send these items to the Long-Term Planning Committee as a body of the POC, and there were no complaints or no exceptions taken to the fact that the items would be sent, and that's all of them as far as my recollection goes. And it seems odd to me that a new ruling could reach backwards in time prior to the time of that new decision and alter our conduct at this point and forward. I can understand him suggesting that we make motions from here forward and conduct ourselves accordingly, but the other strikes me as in the Constitution, they talk about ex post facto laws, that you can't reach backward and make something illegal that you did prior to the enactment of a new ruling or law.
Well, let me say this. First, I understood that Mr. Du Bois and Mr. Curran were going to be here this afternoon, but unfortunately did not. I'm in a difficult position of having to explain the legal opinion of the city attorney, and I can only tell you that his view is, at least as I understand it now, his view is that this committee has no jurisdiction to do anything other than review the budget, which is specified in the ordinance, without some specific authorization and vote by the Police Oversight Commission as a full body. And in light of that, his position is, if we don't have jurisdiction over the matter, because there's been no motion and vote, we can't be putting it on an agenda and discussing it and doing something about it, because that's what subject matter jurisdiction is all about. So I don't think we have much choice if we're going to follow the advice of the assistant city attorney.
Okay, I don't want to act illegally, and I want to comport with the Open Meetings Act and as well with all the rules, regulations, and laws of the city as best we can understand them. Out of an abundance of caution, I will agree to your motion to strike all of these items of substance, but it's not my preferred way to go forward. I'm rather taken aback and surprised at this idea and this ruling and the informality by which it's presented to us as well.
Well, let me say, I appreciate your view, Commissioner Siegel. Let me say that I'm not terribly happy about this either. Don't misunderstand me. I do this only because of the advice of the city attorney, not because I particularly want to. But in any case, any further discussion? Commissioner Barker.
I too thought that there were more questions than answers that came out of the attorney's presentation. And I asked him for that statement, a written statement, and I've yet to receive that. and being half Norwegian, I'm not real smart to start with, and that seemed kind of cluttered to me. I would like to ask if Ms. Hammer might share her view, if she can enter into the discussion part of this, to see how she interpreted it.
I don't have an opinion as to his opinion. I do know that it's my understanding that as public servants, as members of the commission, you are not free to disregard the advice of city council. It's not like a private attorney where you can accept or reject private council advice. The opinion of the city attorney is the opinion of the city, and public servants are required to follow that, any opinions from the city attorney.
Well, without getting into that, I don't view myself as an employee of the city. But in any case, any further discussion on this? Commissioner Siegel.
Thank you. If you'll tolerate it, I'd like to ask a follow-up question after we make the vote on this motion. It's on the same subject.
What? You don't want to ask him now?
Well, it's not related to the motion at hand.
Okay. Any other further discussion on the motion? All in favor of approving the agenda as amended? Raise your right hand, please. It's unanimous. All right. You had something else you wanted to raise?
Well, the question occurs to me as to the validity of anything that this committee has done since we began convening with me sitting on it and you as the chair. I had not understood that we needed to make motions to set an agenda and add any items for consideration. I wonder if it wipes out all of our past meetings with respect to substantive matters taken up.
I would hope not, but that's something you'll have to take up with Mr. Du Bois. I'm not in a position to offer an opinion. I would hope not. All right, that gets us then on the agenda, what's remaining on the agenda, that is public comments. Is there anyone signed up for public comments? Has anyone signed up?
Patrick Ayala.
Okay, and for public comments, there'll be limited to 2 minutes. There'll be Francis, there'll be a warning in a minute and a half. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you have each have 2 minutes.
If
If you state your
I
name,
don't know.
address, please.
My name is Patrick Ayala, and this is Sheila Ayala. I don't know really if we're at the right meeting. I sent a letter to the independent review officer of the Police Oversight Commission on a job well done by police. I don't know if I could read it here to you. That would be appropriate, or to the full commission.
It probably would be, you're free to read it here, but it'd probably be more beneficial for the officer and the public if it was at the full commission, which is a televised proceeding. This is not.
When is that?
That is the second Thursday in October. The IRO will tell us the exact date.
Okay, I guess we'll do it then.
What's the exact date?
October the 10th at 4 o'clock.
October the 10th at 4 o'clock over in the City Council chambers.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Casey Ellis.
Mr. Elvis.
You all know me well. I've been around. I haven't been here in a while, so I just thought I'd come by and I've been paying attention. Even though I haven't been here, I've been paying attention to what's going on, and I just wanted to thank this committee, this long-term planning committee, for all the hard work you're trying to do. And I do realize that you guys are under restraints from the administration and from the city of Albuquerque. If they'd let you go, you guys could make a real big difference. And I just wanted to thank you guys for your hard work, and I really do appreciate it. And we're monitoring, we're keeping track of what's going on, even though you don't see me around much. We're all very, very interested in not only the public's paying attention, but DOJ's paying attention too. So cities hanging themselves. Unfortunately, they refuse to do the right thing, even though they're under investigation. So thank you guys so much for all your hard work.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Charles Duran.
I would like to tell the city commission, the commissioners, that I know this is appropriate to say it. I'm not someone that can be stepped on just because I'm small and I'm a senior citizen. I have one right eye, and I keep on getting abused by officers that apparently belong to APD. They work in hospitals, as the old St. Joseph's, and also at Presbyterian, and at Loveless Hospital up here at UNM. And these security guards, police officers, they seem to take it upon themselves to just take advantage of you and beat you up and break your arms and your wrists, and then cover it up with internal affairs downtown. And these police officers went to school in Los Angeles, California, and Alan Seeger's a police officer, and he was accused of raping children there in Brentwood, California. And you know, these police officers that come from different parts of New Mexico are accused of raping these high school girls at Albuquerque High and at West Mesa and St. Pius, and they seem to be getting away with murder. And Mrs. Carol Brandenburg, the district attorney, she doesn't seem to want to do anything for the public and the people that are being actually really abused by these officers that are getting away with murder, you know, and no one's doing anything about it, you know, so I'm just bringing it to your attention.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I'd like to make a comment to the speaker, Mr. Duran.
Me?
Yes, you. First of all, thank you for taking your time to come here today and speaking to us. It's important that you file complaints with the IRO's office, with this department, for any possible misconduct that you believe has occurred. The jurisdiction of this office and this department only extends to Albuquerque Police Department and its officers. So if, for example, you were roughed up by a security guard, there might be a separate claim about that kind of violence, but we would not be able to take a look at the case of a security guard, for example. It would be beyond our jurisdiction. If, however, you were mistreated in some way inappropriately by an APD officer, your complaint would be valid and would be reviewed on its merits. If you don't know, it's perfectly okay for you not to know, and you can list all that you do know about the incident and put it on a complaint form, and this office will investigate it to the point where they determine whether it's APD or a separate outside security firm. And I would encourage you to speak your mind and to list your complaints, each one and individually. If you're making complaints, as a matter of fact, under the ordinance that we operate on, the complaints must be filed within 90 days of the incident. So you can't reach back and go a lot further back than that. I hope that's clearer to you, and I would urge you not to hurry out of the room, but instead to find ways of contacting this department, who I think will reach out to hear your complaints and make sure they're heard. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Any other?
There are no more.
that's the last public speaker. Now, let's turn now to the approval of the minutes. I had some problems with these minutes. They were some places too lengthy, and rather than go through them all, I just made some amended changes. I'd be happy to go through my amendments with my colleagues, or we can just approve them with my amendments, and presumably the IRO will then pick up the amendments and incorporate.
Well, we have plenty of time, Mr. Chairman. I also had an amendment that I was prepared to ask for.
Well, all right, let's, well, it's going to be a meeting just on minutes. Anyway, but if you look at the minutes on item 2, we ought to treat, with all due respect to Commissioner Foster, we ought to treat him the same as any other public speaker, not do a verbatim report of what he said. And therefore, I would end that first sentence after the words "the role of," and just put in "the role of the POC," period, and delete everything else after that. So it would read an opinion from the City Attorney's Office regarding the role of the POC, period. Then on item 3, I would delete the first sentence, and all the sentences in there except the last sentence, which would simply read, Chair Shine moved to approve the July 25th, 2013 minutes, comma, as amended. Then there's a typo on item number 4, the second line. He would provide rather than give provide. It should just read he would provide. And then on item 5, I would delete the first sentence of item 5. And item 8, I would rewrite the next to last sentence so it reads, Chair Shine indicated that the purpose of the study was to assist in the process of amending the ordinance, period. And those were my amendments. Do you have any other amendments? Commissioner Seal?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would recommend that we add at the end of item 9, mediation, the LTPC considered the matter but declined to place the item on the next month's agenda.
I'm just writing it on my copy. This is the master. The LTPC considered the matter, but what?
But declined to place the item on the next month's agenda.
Okay, are there any other amendments to these minutes? The meeting date was supposed to be September 18th, not September 19th. Yeah. Anything else? I move to approve the agenda as amended. The minutes as amended. There's a second. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, those are as amended. Now, in terms of what's left on this other business, I'd like to suggest to accommodate schedules. Right now, this November meeting is set for November 21. I would like to, for Thursday, November 21, I believe. I would like to ask the committee's indulgence and reschedule that for the prior day, November 20th at 2 p.m. It's a Wednesday.
I think we did that last week.
No, let me just see.
I had marked that on my calendar to November 20th at 1400.
Is that right? Did you say you understand it?
I have no recollection.
Ms. Garcia, do you know whether the November meeting is scheduled for November 20th and November 21st? Well, let's say, if you don't mind, I'd like to move that we set it for November 20th at 2 p.m., just so that we're sure. Is there a second? Okay.
And that's a Wednesday.
That's Wednesday, November 20th, that's at 2 p.m.
Can you explain what the purpose is?
because of holiday travel schedule.
Okay, Thanksgiving is the following week?
Pardon me?
Is Thanksgiving?
Yeah, Thanksgiving's the next Thursday.
Okay. We had complaints at the full POC, Mr. Chairman, about moving meeting dates around. Maybe it wasn't at the full POC, it may have been at one of the task force hearings. And in recognition of that, it feels awkward to me to be doing it, but I understand your purpose, and I'll accept this change. I think it's important to give good advance notice, and this is certainly good advance
Which
notice.
is 2 months in advance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All right, it's carried unanimously. The meeting will be on November 20th at 2. Is there any other business? Commissioner Seaton.
I would ask the chair's indulgence in recognizing now that we will have a basket full of issues to be brought to the POC to be moved and perhaps considered by this committee at the will of the full POC and formally done, that mediation be added to the call list so that it's in our set of options of matters to discuss. I understand that the committee didn't want to take it up a month ago at this hearing today, and I accept the will of the committee. I still would like to see it added to or kept on the list as a live subject. Ask your approval and agreement to that.
If you just indulge me just 1 second. I don't know that it was, mediation was on the original list. And I had as you know, I had no problem with mediation being a subject of discussion to this committee. I was just concerned about the timing of it. What I'm going to propose at the full POC is that these subject matters be approved for review by the POC to be taken up and dealt with in such priority order as the chair of the long-term planning committee and the long-term planning committee decides in their own discretion. So I would be happy to add, in that context, add mediation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You may be working off of earlier preliminary list, because as that list was developed, I remember adding it to the formal list that we brought forward to the full POC. So thank you. I appreciate that it would be added to the Activate list.
I certainly want to get the last version of the list, and I will do that hopefully before the next POC meeting.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barton.
And we should discuss mediation as part of our next agenda, but I'd also like to hear something from the folks that are in the business now within the city and in the police department that are participating in a mediation program, just to have a little local expertise.
Commissioner Barker, this list is going to be the list of, if you may recall it, I have a copy of it here if you'd like to see it. This is the 3-page list of the various subjects that we were going to take up in the POC, not necessarily in the next agenda, but sometime. Obviously, we can't take all of these up at once. So we under the term mediation, we can just put current and proposed programs to incorporate both. If that's acceptable.
And that's acceptable to me. I would need notice, but it's not on next month's agenda. I would correct Commissioner Barker. It would be up to the chair to establish next month's agenda independently after the POC gives us a list of appropriate subject matters. And the chair has already indicated he's not interested in putting it on in the near term, and I can accept that decision on behalf of both the chair and the rest of the committee. It's only appropriate to do so. When that time comes, I can definitely bring down speakers. I had spoken with several outside sources about mediation, and it would take some advance notice to do it.
Well, I think it's clear to Commissioner Barker that we're just talking about adding mediation to the list of future agendas, items, subject matter for the committee, within the jurisdiction of the committee. Anything further? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.